Hi, I'm 1 minute early, and I'm seeing a notice here. Hang on one second. So I switched to a different platform so that I could stream live to LinkedIn. And I just got a notice saying that I didn't qualify. Not sure why. I'm not going to worry about that right now. I'm going to take a quick screenshot of that, actually, so I can deal with that next week. So it's 5 o'clock on the dot. I think I'm broadcasting live on Facebook. I'm just going to pull up Facebook on my phone so that I can see any questions or comments here. Feel free to ask any questions you'd like. Yes, I'm here. This is your time. I'm going to be doing this once a week. I want you to pour something to sip. I've got a glass of wine here. It is a Pinot Noir from Oregon that I'm just opened. I'm very excited to try. And we're going to talk about all things travel and kind of keep you up to date on things that are going on. So first, we're going to talk about what countries are open to Americans of the 195 sovereign countries in the United States, in the world, which ones are open to us. Maybe we'll see if any of you want to try and guess. Then I have a few updates about Egypt and also a really cool way to visit Egypt that I wanted to share with you. Then I'm going to highlight a virtual event company. They actually, well, I'll get to it. It's called Context Travel. I'll explain what they do and how they do it. Just kind of laying out the outline for today. I'm also going to update you on something that was announced 2 days ago that the Four Seasons is doing that I think is really cool and very innovative and helpful and necessary. Then I'm going to, talk about the weird and wonderful wellness rituals from around the world. Try saying that 5 times fast. For April being the month of Poetry Month, I'm going to be featuring the rest of the month today and the rest of the month as well, different poets from around the world that I admire. So I'm going to share that with you as well. Then finally, I'm going to talk about a little exciting thing that I did today for the other travel advisors in my network. So that's at the end. So there's my outline. Let's take a sip and get started. Let me see, does anybody have any questions to start? It doesn't look like there are. So first of all, let's give a toast to Prince Philip, who passed away overnight. We have to remember that what we know of him from The Crown is not necessarily accurate. But I did not know much about his mother. So it was interesting one of the reasons I love history and shows like that is that then it motivates you to go and look up the real story. So the story of his mother was quite interesting. And if you don't know it about Princess Alice, I recommend that you go and check that out. So just wanted to say that up at the front. Okay, so where we can go. I noted last week on our first Sips and Spotlights that the CDC had announced that day that Americans were allowed to go and travel internationally if you're vaccinated. And that we just couldn't arrive very many places. So you can take off on a plane and fly around, but you may not be able to land. There are a list of countries open out of 195. It's not that many. I'm just going to run through some of the ones that may surprise you. Albania, we can go to. Bangladesh, Bolivia, Belize, Botswana, Chile, Brazil, British Virgin Islands, and Anguilla in the Caribbean. Egypt is one of them, so we're going to talk about Egypt. Also in Africa, Kenya, Morocco, and Ethiopia. We can go to the Maldives, the Seychelles, United Arab Emirates, the UK, Turkey, Tunisia, Sri Lanka. So it's not a long list, but that's just to give you a little bit of a potpourri of where we can go. I know that Canada has gone into a severe shutdown again, and certain countries in Europe are dealing with the same. So things are not yet quite open, but we're going to get there and definitely looking up. Now, for Egypt. I wanted to tell you about the most amazing YouTube video. This is actually going out in the PWT Index on Sunday. If you're not signed up for my weekly newsletter of inspiration, you should be. It's got lots of juicy stuff in there every week. And this week, I actually have a link to this video. And what it is, and it's not long, it's like 3 minutes, but you get to see this amazing parade that they did when moving the mummies and the stuff from the tomb of 22 kings and queens, 18 kings and 4 queens. And they moved the mummies and the remains of their former kings and queens from one museum to another. And it was quite a production and quite a parade and really fascinating to see. So if you want to sign up for the newsletter, just go to the website, premierwellnesstravel.com, just scroll to the bottom and you can sign up and you'll get that on Sunday. I highly recommend seeing this. And then the other thing that was sort of interesting, I saw the very same day, The Guardian announced on yesterday, on the 8th, that there's a new golden city that has been found. It's 3,000 years old. And it was apparently the largest ancient city, and it was known as Aten, Aten. And they had unearthed items such as jewelry, pottery vessels, amulets, mud bricks, and it's from Amenhotep III. I still remember studying Egypt when I was in 5th grade and learning about all these pharaohs. So that's actually pretty cool. That's from the Guardian. So you can go check that out. I will also post this article on the Premier Wellness Travel Facebook page, so you guys can check that out yourselves. And then I wanted to talk about Context Travel. I talked about them before. I feature one of their talks in my newsletter every week. Let me back up. They were a tour guide company. They are still a tour guide company. And they're the ones that I use because their tour guides are the best. They're scholarly and informed and really enhance the experience of visiting different countries around the world. And when the COVID happened and everything shut down, they transferred a lot of their offerings online, and it's really become very, very robust. And it's very, very hard to choose among the many, many things that they do every weekend. And even during the week, they have a bunch of stuff. They have something coming up tomorrow at, I think, 11 on the glorious Ghent, and talking all about that city, which rung a bell for me because the Treaty of Ghent is what ended the War of 1812. Although it didn't end until 1814 in December. And 1814 was the year that they also burned Washington. The only reason it didn't burn more was because there was a bad thunderstorm, and the British took it as a sign from God that they were not doing a good thing by burning down the Capitol and trying to burn down the White House. So that happened in August, and the war ended in December. And so we can learn all about that city where the treaty was signed in 1814. And another one that's happening this weekend on Sunday, and I did another one with this person, Gil Stoltz. He does walkabouts in Paris. So I was following him around on Google Maps as he walked from the Eiffel Tower to the Place Vendôme, and was able to see different things. And he was full of history and stories and pointing to this and pointing to that. I was maybe a little concerned you wouldn't be able to hear him, but it was absolutely not a problem. So I highly recommend his tour that he's doing on the 11th on Sunday. It's at 11 a.m. He's going to Montmartre and doing a tour of that beautiful area and of the church and all the artists that live there. So that just gives you a little bit of a taste of all the things that they have. I had last week and I binged. I attended 4, one on Jane Austen. I did a tour of the city of Dublin with somebody really fantastic, Jennifer Carberry. Tomorrow as well, Dr. Alan Montgomery is doing the romantic castles of the Scottish Highlands. I did one with him a couple weeks ago on Outlander in Scotland. He's fantastic. So that's tomorrow at 1 o'clock. These are not very expensive. They're like $35, $36. I do have an affiliate link. So if you are actually interested in one, let me know so I can send you that. I don't get too much of residual from that, but maybe enough to cover another glass of wine here. So Alan Cunningham, I recommend. I've actually taken quite a few. Let's see, what else did I take last weekend? I took one on the Acropolis as well. And there's one more in the morning. I can't remember. Don't remember. Dublin, Jane Austen, the Acropolis. I don't know. I've done one on Titian. I've done one on Poldark. I've done one on Outlander. They're doing one on like how to create a perfect cheese board or charcuterie board. One right now going on about how to make the perfect cup of chai. So there's a mix of food, music, art, history, all the kinds of things that us travelers love to learn about. So that's Context Travel. You can just click on upcoming seminars. They also do multi-week courses. And I'm a huge fan, and I'm here to love on them and promote them. So wanted to talk about that. Yesterday, I believe it was yesterday, the Four Seasons announced something really interesting that I wanted to just mention to you. They're doing something new. I mean, a lot of hotels do meetings and galas and parties and gatherings. And since it looks like for a little bit longer, we're not going to be able to meet in person. They've been innovating with technology and launched something that they're calling Lead with Care. And basically it's a way of introducing a multi-broadcast kind of like hub and spoke video conferencing, and also like kind of galas to go. So you could basically set it up so that those who are going to be attending virtually will get a meal delivered, and you can have a great party, and they'll handle everything. It's really trying to figure out a way of how to use technology to still create gatherings with meaning, even while we're trying to stay safe and socially distance, and really make them spectacular. And I was really excited to hear about this, reading the particulars. It started in Silicon Valley, and I hope it spreads to some of their other ones as well. There's a beautiful Four Seasons here in DC that I go to a lot. So wanted to mention that. For those of you who maybe are interested in trying to maybe organize a business meeting or waiting for that, they would do all the support, and you don't have to reinvent the wheel. Now, the purpose actually today is the main highlight today is, and the title of this Sips and Spotlights is to talk about the weird and wonderful wellness rituals from around the world. So try to say that 5 times fast. If anybody has any ideas of any rituals from your country or from a country that you visited, I've got 21 here. This is part of my 21 for 2021 series. We're doing one a month. We started with wellness YouTube channels that I recommended. Then the most anticipated 21 most anticipated openings of hotels around the world. If you just go to the blog and just categorize and filter for inspiration or expert tips, all of these should come up. And last week we posted one about 21 wellness rituals from around the world. So I was just going to go through a few of those for fun and see if you guys could guess what some of them were. So let's start with Denmark. Does anybody have any idea what a wellness ritual would be in Denmark? I'll give you a hint. They're a Nordic country and it's cold. So obviously it's cold submersions. It says here, they're a fun, non-religious way to cool off your body after visiting a hot sauna. So that's one. The French, of course, I think is my favorite because it's an aperitif or digestif. It's an alcoholic beverage that you drink after your meal or before your meal in order to stimulate your appetite, I guess if it's before and afterwards, to help you digest. I love the French. In Japan, they have onsens. Those are basically hot springs. And I learned all about those from Remote Lands, which is a wonderful tour destination management company, a tour company that I work with. Let's see what else. In India, we have listed here laughter yoga, but I obviously Ayurveda would be something that I would definitely give India credit for. That's the oldest medicine in the world and is actually the ancestor of both Chinese traditional medicine and medicine in the West. Speaking of Chinese medicine, that's what we have then that listed in there for China. And let's see, I'm skipping. I'm not giving you them all because you should go to the blog and check it out as well. In Budapest in Hungary, they have medicinal baths. I'm going to actually read it so I get this right. Thermal waters with vital minerals and metaboric acid. And then certain days they have spa parties or parties at the spa. I could get down with that. In Tibet, they have the singing bowls, which I actually have a bunch here. Spain is tapas, because community and getting together with your friends is a very important aspect of wellness. We all appreciate that much more now after this year that we've been through. In Thailand, they do a special prayer rooted in Buddhism about releasing the souls, which is actually quite beautiful. In Bali, they do a flower bath, and I actually got to experience that when I visited the Turks and Caicos at a resort that is owned by someone from the Southeast. And the reason that's considered wellness is because when we digest, we're not just digesting food, it's all our senses. So what you see and what you feel. And so taking a bath amid the flowers is wellness. So that counted. Netherlands is cycling. That's not a surprise. I have a friend who's has a new dog, and she ordered a special carrier from the Netherlands for the dog because they have everything that goes with the bikes and with accessories. I think that's it. Yeah, that's not all 21, but it gives you a sampling of them. And it's really interesting. I mean, because they are very varied. All the Nordic countries do something with the cold and the water, and that is definitely kind of cool. Pardon the pun. But I love listing those and investigating those. And actually, my summer intern last year actually did that for me over Christmas and did some research based on what I was looking for. So he was great. Okay, next. I wanted for the Poetry Month here in the United States, I wanted to talk about a wonderful poet. He is from Sweden. I learned about him from the TV series Wallander, the British version, not the Swedish version. The character of Wallander, played by, in the British version, Kenneth Branagh, is a very good series. I highly recommend it, number one, if you like Nordic noir. And it's not even, it's dark. Actually, I was going to say it's not that dark. There are darker ones, but it's pretty dark. And so in there, in that series, I got introduced to this poet. I think Wallander recites the poetry, or maybe it's a voiceover. And he won the Nobel Prize in 2011. His name is Thomas Trostromer. And his poetry was so beautiful that I bought 2 books of his poetry and loved what I read. I was trying to find them earlier this week. They might have gotten purged in my move last month because I got rid of 3/4 of the books that I owned. But his poetry, I think is so beautiful about it is that it really focuses on isolation and sort of fragmentation, which obviously fit with that character and fit with the mode and the mood of Nordic noir. But I think particularly in this last year, as our lives have become fragmented and our lives have become more isolated, I think his poetry is especially resonant. And so I'm just going to read one poem by him. He's got some long poetry, and I highly recommend that you check him out. A good place to do that is at thepoetryfoundation.org. That's my favorite go-to resource for poems and information about poetry. And this was translated by Patty Crane. It's not long. And it's called The Stones. The stones we have thrown, I hear fall, clear glass through the year. In the valley, confused actions of the moment fly howling from the treetop to treetop, quieting in airs thinner than nows, gliding like swallows from mountaintop to mountaintop, till they reach the furthest plateaus along the edge of existence, where all our deeds fall, glass clear to no ending except ourselves. So that just gives you a little taste. I hope you're celebrating some poetry somehow, in some mode or fashion. If you are, I'd love to hear about it in the comments. Okay, moving right along. What's next on our agenda? I wanted to talk a little bit about something really special I did earlier today. I was invited to do a presentation for other travel advisors on my other specialty, which is yoga therapy. I last year was recertified by the International Association of Yoga Therapists, which is pretty prestigious. It involved some study, and I had to be grandfathered in, and I did that in 2017. And when travel kind of blew up, I thought this was something I could maintain. I love to travel because, and I designed travel because of a trip where my yoga practice exploded. And so I had an invitation to talk about some of the wellness techniques that I have picked up along the way in the last 20 years as a yoga teacher and therapist, so that the travel advisors that I work with and the other travel designers could keep their zen and stay steady amid some of the chaos, both of the disruption in the industry as a result of COVID, and then as things sort of ramp back up. And there's obviously going to be some hiccups. A lot of staff have been furloughed and wait times maybe be longer than we wish. And so, how do we maintain a sense of equanimity so that we can not only serve our clients well, but enjoy life? So I talked about 4 things. First, my overall message was that there's no such thing as work-life balance. I called bullshit on that. That really what we should be aiming for is work-life integration. And that everything that we do in our lives should be, whether it's for work or in other non-work life, should be either health supporting or I want to say health threatening, or trying to think what the other word was. Health supporting or health draining, I guess. This is a concept in Ayurvedic. I was reminded of it with an Ayurvedic doctor I've been working with recently, where nothing is good and nothing is bad. It's maybe just bad for you and maybe just bad for you at this time. So I kind of my overarching theme was that, and that we should always, when we're working on our well-being and our health, work on adding things in that are joyful and delightful, and not be punishing about taking things out. Because if we add a lot of good things in, the bad things will absent themselves on their own. So to kind of take the effort out of it. And then I talked about 4 areas specifically. I talked first about meditation and the difference between meditation and mindfulness, and why it works. I talked about the breath, and particularly why the breath is so powerful to help calm down the flight or fight response of our sympathetic nervous system, and where the breath sits and why it's a linchpin that can be very pivotal and very useful. And then I talked about movement and yoga specifically, and how you don't need a yoga butt to do yoga. It's not even the best part. And some chair poses and stretches you could do both in your office chair or on an airplane. And then I talked about aromatherapy and how I think it's the bomb, or the scent bomb, and why I feel that that's so powerful a tool to shift mood, to promote sleep, to boost creativity. And it was really fun to talk about all this, and to talk about the power of travel to create transformation in our lives that is lasting. It only took 10 days for my entire life to change. It was a 10-day retreat, and it changed everything in my life, including what I'm doing now. So that's also, because I've had that personal experience, is also why I'm so passionate about creating trips and travel for my clients that can transform their lives as well. So whether it's your primary purpose is to reboot because you're like totally burnt out and you're not sleeping, there are programs and places I know of where you can go to learn better sleep habits and how to build and cultivate better sleep. You may be already a dabbler of yoga and you want to actually learn a little bit more, or figure out how to make that a more regular part of your life. For me, that trip, I've been doing yoga since 1994. I like to say pre-Madonna, before Madonna made it popular. And I had been doing yoga only as like a cross-training thing. I was rowing, I was biking, I was training for 10K, and yoga was just another thing that I was doing in that mix of physical activity. And when I went on this retreat, my practice exploded like confetti, and I learned there were all these other little pieces in there I didn't even know existed. So that's when I first started meditating. This is 19 years ago, and was first introduced to Ayurveda, both food as medicine and also the treatments and sort of the self-care things that you can do in Ayurveda. And it changed, like I said, it changed my entire life. So, and certainly my yoga practice. And then the final thing I talked about, I think I already talked about this, was aromatherapy. So I'm going to repurpose that content and re-record it as 4 separate modules. So to advise clients on how to keep their Zen when they're on the road, or even when they're not on the road, but just the 4 quick down and dirty things that I kind of recommend that you try and experiment with. And it's important to try and experiment so that you can experience these methodologies and techniques, because reading about them is not the same as doing them. There's intellectual knowledge and there's experiential knowledge, and experiencing it is the only way that you know whether or not it's going to work for you. So that was fun to talk about all the things that I love and that I think are so powerful. And I can't wait to repurpose it and fix it up a little bit and share it with all of you. And hopefully that'll be within the next 2 weeks. I'm also working on my website and renovating it and totally changing things up there because there's nothing better to do. And getting ready for the onslaught of travel. There was an announcement this week that they really think that personal travel is going to be back by the summer. I kind of think that too. I actually going to be booking a holiday for one of my clients in Florida in 2 weeks, which I'm very excited about. Meeting with somebody on Sunday about a trip for potentially biking and hiking through Scotland in the fall of 2022. And that was fun to research. I have 3 sources and possible suppliers for that, depending on how rigorous they want it to be. And so things are starting to look up. I'm getting my second COVID shot tomorrow. So after 2 weeks after that, then I myself would be immune, supposedly, according to the science. So I'm also thinking and wondering about where I might want to go first. So let me just check to see if there's any comments or any questions. I'd love to hear where you would like to go first.
Supposedly, according to the science.
Sorry, came right up. Let's see. I do have a comment. Hi, Lainey. Hi. So where do you want to go first when we're able to travel? I know you're out in Hawaii. So if you have a wish list or bucket list, one of the things I do work for my portfolio clients, if you are, keep me on retainer, we can do some long-term planning and you can come up with your bucket list, and not just of destinations, but of experiences. I like to have my clients, rather than list specific places that they want to go to, certain experiences that they want to try or do or dream about, because there may be places where I know that that's possible or where they don't. And my job is to introduce them to things that they didn't even know were possible. And that's part of the fun of creating sort of that surprise and delight, both when I present proposals and when they book and then go and do them. I also want to point out my cherry blossoms here indoors. I did not make it down to see them live in person last Wednesday. I think the peak was on March 24th. So I got down there, I think earlier this week, and it was a little past peak. So I didn't even get out of the cab because there were still crazy crowds. And I was worried I wouldn't be able to find a cab to get back. So I only had the cab driver drive me around. It's such a wonderful thing here in DC. You don't even have to go down to the tidal basins to see them because they're all over the city. And they're really, really special. And last week in the Premier Wellness Travel newsletter, which goes out every Sunday morning, I talked about the woman who really was instrumental in getting those planted here. There's a great history about her. She started, I think, the effort in the 1880s, and they didn't get planted until the 1915, something like that. So it was like a 30-year effort for her to get those here. And so we have her to thank. And those of you on my newsletter got a chance to read all about it. So that was good. So I hope we're about at the half hour. Today was a solo excursion. I'm going to hopefully line up. I will not hope. I know I'll be able to line up other guests, other suppliers, people from the Amen resorts. I'm going to invite. I'm pretty sure I can get my friend from there to come and talk to us about all the Amangari resorts that are open for Americans. I love their resorts for 2 reasons. They do focus on wellness. The one in Wyoming, obviously there's some beautiful national parks there, also in Utah too. But in the one in Wyoming, they have a very good Ayurvedic program that looks perfect as far as I'm concerned. But the other thing I like about their resorts is that they understand the value of design and on your well-being. Also, and I didn't talk about this today in my presentation, in Ayurveda, we don't just talk about digesting food, but digesting other things in our lives. So in our environment and our surroundings. And so the importance of your surroundings being supportive of your well-being, whether that's not having it cluttered. If clutter doesn't bother you, then that's not an issue, but just the importance of your surroundings, the importance of your community, and the importance of what you're consuming, whether that's books or podcasts or television or news, that we digest everything, not just food. And so I was speaking about the importance of design in wellness resorts around the world. And in addition to Amangari, which I think, and the Aman resorts, Amangari is the one in Utah. Amangani is the one, I think, in Wyoming. And then there's one in the Turks and Caicos. But the other thing I talked about was this Irish designer who I spoke about last week, is, you may recall, Clodagh, and how she's designed and done a spectacular job at Miraval at 2 of their destinations. She's done 6 Senses in the Douro Valley in Portugal. And I actually learned since last week that she also at the beginning of COVID launched a wellness design company. So really being more explicit about the connection of interior design with your well-being. So that's something I'm really big into, again, because of that trip that I did 20 years ago where my yoga practice exploded like confetti. I understood how important my environment was to my well-being as well. So just checking again to see if there's any questions at all. No? Okay. So we will see you here next week. We're going to be talking about some of my favorite travel podcasts. I'm excited to talk about them because all the best podcasters are good storytellers. And I also think of travel design as someone who designs good stories that we can enter into, that we experience, and then create memories that we can share. And the stories of the people that we meet and encounter, and the stories of the tour guides that show us around. Stories are what give life meaning. And in the post-pandemic world, meaning is going to be everything. We're not going to waste time on things that aren't meaningful, including in our travel and how we spend our time. So thank you for watching. If you're watching this later, thank you for watching later. And I will see you next week. Wish me luck with my second COVID shot tomorrow. Bye.